Welcome to episode number 4 of the Around the Bases podcast. I'm your host, Jaden Harper. Today we have a big episode in store. We're going to talk about my all-star predictions for both the American League and National League rosters. But before we get started, I want to remind you to make sure to like and subscribe so you never miss when I upload content. Tomorrow will be the Padres series reaction for the Phillies Fan podcast and the preview of the weekend series against the Chicago White Sox. And then also, like I mentioned in Tuesday's podcast, I'll mention it again here. On Saturday will be the debut of a new series I'm going to call Substack Saturdays. This Saturday, I'll be writing about the CBA negotiations and the potential lockout in 2027, and what the discussions look like right now. So make sure to be ready for that. That comes out on Saturday. Another podcast tomorrow with the Phillies Fan podcast. But today, we are here to talk about all of Major League Baseball. And the All-Star voting just opened yesterday. When I'm recording this is Thursday. This video should be coming out on Thursday. Wednesday, the All-Star voting released. All-Star voting is such an interesting thing. You used to be able to vote for the starting pitcher. Now you can't. You only vote for the 9 position players. You vote for the 8 position players and the 1 designated hitter in each league. And then the top vote getters get in automatically. And then from there, there's a little more fan voting to decide the finalists at each position. But what I'm going to do today is look through every single all-star spot and tell you who I think should be in that position for both leagues. But before we get to that, I do want to start with our week recap around Major League Baseball. The first series I'm going to talk about are the Detroit Tigers. I've said multiple times that the Tigers are dead in the water, and I still don't think they're in a really good position when it comes to their season. Still no Scooble. But what they were able to do this week in Tampa Bay, they sweep out the Rays. They go in and they dominated mostly every single game of the series. They just got back Kerry Carpenter from the injured list, and he had a big impact in the game on Monday with a home run. They went back to back, him, Dingler, and Riley Green. So just a really good performance. Gleyber Torres just came back for the Rays as well, for the Tigers, excuse me. So Tigers are getting healthy at the right time. You don't know what this timeline for Scooble looks like and how close the wild card race is in the American League. The Tigers are putting themselves in a really, really, really good position. When it comes to Tampa Bay, it's obviously a disappointing series loss. But again, the Yankees have also so far lost their series. They lost the first 2 to Cleveland. So the good thing for Tampa Bay is that you're not losing that much ground in your division race. You're losing a little bit of ground in the overall American League picture. But at the end of the day, it's not the end of the world losing that ground to a team like Detroit. Next series is Kansas City. They were down in the dumps. They were on a big losing streak. They go to Cincinnati and take 2 out of 3 from the Cincinnati Reds. Big performances all around for Kansas City. Vinny Pasquantino had a big series. The almost had a sweep. The Royals honestly should have had a sweep, but the Reds had a big comeback led by Spencer Steer, 2 home run game on Tuesday night, and they took that game in the extra innings, and then the Royals were able to take the finale. Big one for Kansas City. They're in the same boat as Detroit. The AL, there's so many spots still open in the American League where Kansas City has a really good week. They have a really good 2 weeks. They're right back into that playoff picture. So that's how wide open the American League is right now. For Cincinnati, it's a little disappointing. You're losing a little bit of ground in the National League wildcard picture. There's very, very, very tight picture between the Pirates, the D-backs, the Cardinals, the Cubs themselves, and the Phillies, and even the Nationals. So you want to take a series we have the opportunity to. They just weren't able to capitalize. Even though they had some of their best starters on the mound, they just were not able to capitalize against Kansas City. So this weekend, it's going to be something you need to watch out for is Cincinnati. Are they going to keep trending in this downward direction, or are they going to be able to rebound after a little loss against Kansas City? The Marlins, they've had a really bad month of May, and now they might have started to find their footing. They sweep out the Washington Nationals in DC. They started to look a lot better. Their offense looked really, really good during the series. A lot of home runs from most of their well-known players, like a Kyle Stowers home run. Yeah, Herberto Hernandez had a couple home runs in the series, right? Joe Mack had a home run, I'm pretty sure. Liam Hicks had a home run, right? So you see a lot of stuff going right for Miami. Their biggest issue is their pitching. Sandy Alcantara had one of his better starts of the season in his start this week. But again, there's still a lot of pieces that need to get right for Miami. They jumped the Mets again. They're no longer last in the division, but there's still a lot of things that need to change for Miami if they want to make a push towards the postseason. All right, the Minnesota Twins take 2 out of 3 from the Chicago White Sox. That one is a little bit of a surprise, right? Because you see the White Sox are still in the playoff picture of the American League. They're playing really good baseball. But the Twins were just able to find it this week in those first 2 games of the series. They lost the finale, but they were able to find it, and they were playing really good baseball. They are 5 games under 500, which is, honestly, I would say it's an accomplishment for Minnesota. I don't think anybody really expected them to be this close in the picture necessarily compared to where a lot of people expected them to be, which was, I would say, more down in the dumps, down in the dumpster of the American League. But they're only 2 games out of the last wild card spot, and the American League, like I've said multiple times, has not been its best this season. A lot of teams under 500. But if Minnesota goes on a run, which I don't think they will, they probably hurt themselves more than anything, right? If you're Minnesota, you really want to be realistic, and if you end up selling at the deadline, be a realistic seller and not try to add pieces to a team that probably won't go far in the postseason and probably won't make the postseason in general. Something on Minnesota, Royce Lewis got sent down to AAA, and now he's mashing the ball. So it's a question of, is he a 4A player that some people say is a level? They can't make that full step in the major leagues, but are great in the minor leagues. I just think he needed the chance to get healthy, and now if he gets called back up to Minnesota, he would have a really big opportunity there. And if not, I feel like it is time that Minnesota and him part ways. I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. Question is just where. There's a lot of teams that would be interested in getting a guy like Royce Lewis. I think maybe a change of scenery would probably be best for Lewis in the rest of his major league career. But Minnesota, really good. Take 2 out of 3 from the Chicago White Sox. The White Sox still they're nursing that injury without Munetaka Murakami. We don't know. 4 to 6 weeks was his timetable. We'll see if it's really close to that or if he's gonna need some more time. I'm thinking he'll be back around the 4th of July or right before the All-Star game. But if they can survive without Murakami, they'll be in a really good position when he gets back. The Rangers take 2 out of 3 from the St. Louis Cardinals, and it's a big step in the right direction for Texas. They're in that picture as well as, like I said, with the Royals and the Twins, about a team that I would say for Texas, out of all those teams, have been has been a disappointment this season. We look at what their starting pitching is. We have Nate Eovaldi and Jacob deGrom. You also have a really good pitcher, Mackenzie Gore. You have Jack Leiter, who's a young up-and-coming prospect as well, still in their system, I would say, but he's kind of developed into a starting pitcher of his own. Kumar Rocker is also developed into a starting pitcher. So for both of them, in a really young rotation outside of the older guys, I would say Texas has underperformed, but again, they're getting hot. Before the finale of the series, they have won 5 straight games. They're in that last spot in the American League wildcard. So they're all in that picture right now, and I would say Texas has the best chance because they're doing this without Corey Seager and Wyatt Langford. They're both rehabbing right now, and you get both of those guys back, they're in a really, really, really good position to make a run as a team in the American League. They have the pieces, they have the experience. I think they just need to put it together at the right time. They swept Kansas City this past weekend, and now they took 2 out of 3 from St. Louis. I think they're going to put themselves in a really good position with the pieces they have to make a nice run during the second half of the 2026 season. Seattle takes 2 out of 3 from the Mets, and this series wasn't even really that close, but the Mets did win the finale. It's their first win in Seattle since 2017. And the Mets are just in a really weird position. Their hole is really deep at this point. The hole can't really get any deeper for the Mets. Carlos Mendoza was talking about it in his post-game press conference yesterday. The hole can't really get any deeper for the New York Mets if they want to have a chance at the playoffs. With how crowded the picture is right now, the Mets are now back in last place in the National League East. It's been a lot of ups and downs for the New York Mets this season, and it feels like the downs have been much deeper than the ups have been higher. So for the Mets, it's a bit of lack of consistency this season, and they have to look within themselves, I would say, and be like, are we going to be a good team, or are we gonna just keep slipping and now let an opportunity go away at postseason push where you have the roster, you have the pieces to do it. So for the Mets, they just have to start putting it together. But for Seattle, they've been hot recently, and now they hold the American League West leading standing Last year, they won their first division title in years. They're looking to go back to back, and I think they're in a really good position because they have all the pieces. They have, I would say, and I said this from the beginning of the year, one of the best rotations in baseball. It's really harder to get better than what they have as a 1 through 5. A great pitching staff. Then you also have a really good lineup, which guys are still underperforming. Cal Raleig's had a down year. Josh Naylor's had a down year. But you have a guy like Randy Arozarena, who's been one of the best outfielders in the American League. He's put together a great season. So is Julio Rodriguez. So for Seattle, when they start putting it together, they will be in a good position. Another series, the Rockies take 2 out of 3 from the Angels. Nothing really to talk about on that one. Both teams are in the dump right now, in the bottom feeders in baseball. Not much to talk about in those. The A's take the first 2 games from the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs have just been really, really on a cold streak since the middle of May, since their last 10-game winning streak. They lose these 2. They're now out of the picture. They are now a full game back of that last wild card spot in the National League. The A's have been playing much better baseball. They've been around this 500 mark all season long, so it's another good win, good 2 wins for them. The finale of that series is today. The Braves take the first 2 against the Blue Jays. The Braves just keep on rolling. No one has been able to stop them, and I don't know if anybody will be able to stop them. They have probably the best rotation in baseball. Their lineup is always hitting 1 through 9. They're doing it without a guy like Drake Baldwin. They're doing it without Ronald Acuna Jr. really coming alive yet. So I'll say the Braves are in a really good position to probably go back to the World Series. And honestly, I would say they have the best chance out of any team in the National League to win the World Series. I think the Braves are in a really good position. Their lineup hits from 1 through 9. You have guys like Matt Olson, who's an MVP candidate. He's been an MVP candidate all season long. You have a guy like Drake Baldwin, who's hurt, but he's had a great season when he's healthy. Chris Sale is putting up Cy Young numbers again. You have Bryce Elder, who's having a really good year. The back end of the bullpen has been incredible. Rafael Iglesias has been great. Robert Suarez has been great. Dylan Lee has been great. You look at their whole, like I said, their whole lineup. Michael Harris is someone who, personally, and we'll get to them a little later, he's an all-star in my book. He's having a great year. Like I said, Acuna hasn't even got hitting yet. The Braves are in a really good position to go back to the postseason, win the NL East, and I would say they have a really good chance to go back to the World Series. The Dodgers take the first 2 out of 3 from the D-backs. Ohtani continues to do Ohtani things. Really good start last night, but the Dodgers go for the series win tonight against Arizona. The Brewers take the first 2 out of 3 from the Giants. The Giants really needed a win, and they got one. Logan Webb, 7 shutout innings, but the Brewers still continue to roll. It doesn't matter who they have on their roster. Like I've said many times, they find a way to win, and Milwaukee has done that year in and year out, and they continue to do it this season. The Phillies take the first 2 from the Padres. Christopher Sanchez has been absolutely incredible. The Phillies have been playing much better baseball of recent. They're now only a half game back of a playoff spot. And you also have, like I talked about with Sanchez, his scoreless streak did end last night, but is now the 5th longest scoreless streak in Major League history. But I'm going to talk more about this series on tomorrow's episode of the Phillies Fan Podcast, so make sure to stay tuned for that to hear a full breakdown of that series. The Guardians take the first 2 from the Yankees, and it's another side of what Cleveland does during the regular season. They just find a way to win. Like I talked about with Milwaukee, they're 2 very similar teams, and Cleveland has been able to do it with all facets of their offense. They got to Cam Schlittler, the worst start of his career. He gave up 5 runs. They were all over Garrett Cole, got him to give up his first couple runs of the year. Parker Messick has had a great start to the season. Say the same about Gavin Williams. So Cleveland's in a really, really good spot. They lead the AL Central, and they have a healthy lead in the division. And depending on what they do in this finale today, they have a chance to have the top record in the American League when it's all said and done going into the weekend. So Cleveland, a really, really good start for the Guardians, and we'll see if they can keep it up throughout the rest of the month. The Pirates and Astros played a wild game 2, 3 hours, 42 minutes, back and forth and back and forth. Game 1 was pretty wild too. The finale of that series is today. And then the Orioles and Red Sox, they split the first 2 of that. The finale of that series is actually going on while I'm filming this podcast. And I will say this about Boston. Brian Bayo has struggled mightily as a starter, but as a reliever, he has been great. And it's just a wild split in my eyes to see the difference between him as a starter versus him as a reliever. And the question is for Boston, how do you work that in? to your roster construction, and also how do you really work that in to have an opener, but the opener sucked whenever he's had an opener, but then he's been great, but he's also coming in when the team is already down. But when he starts by himself, today he gave up 6 runs in the first inning. The Orioles had 12 guys go up to the plate in the first inning against Brian Bayo. He got out of that. He gave up 6 runs, but he's still on the mound into the third. But it's just a question of what the Red Sox need to do with their team before they lose the season, before the season becomes a lost cause, really, and they're already in a really bad position, one of the worst records in all of baseball. They're awaiting injury returns on a guy like Garrett Crochet, Roman Anthony. They've both had setbacks throughout all of their injuries, so it's just a really tough season for the Red Sox. But I will give the Orioles props. They have started to play a lot better baseball. They are turning it around, and I could see them making a little bit of a run, depending if they get the right pieces at the deadline. I would watch out for the Orioles. They could be a really dangerous team. They have the offense to do it. They just have to add to their pitching staff. All right, so that does it for the week recap. But now it's time to look at the All-Star teams. Again, these are all my opinion on who should be an All-Star starter or not. The format is pretty simple. 34 players on each team's roster, 20 position players, 14 pitchers. The National League will have 34 as well. They'll have an extra pitcher spot, so they would have a 35-man roster just because of Ohtani. In this one, he counts as 2 players, but the real MLB one, he'd only count as 1. And if the team wants to pitch him, he can, but he deserves recognition as a pitcher because he's been great as well. So, another caveat about this, each team has to be represented, so each team has one representative throughout the entire roster. So what it's going to look like, I'm going to go through the American League starting lineup first, then I'm going to talk about the American League pitchers, then I'm going to get to the reserves of the American League, and then we're going to do the same for the National League, and at the end, I'll tell you how many each team has represented in my case. This is what my ballot would look like. I'll do another one of these at the end of the month as we get closer to the All-Star game, but this is personally what I believe should be the All-Star starting lineup. So first for the American League at catcher from the Detroit Tigers, I have Dylan Dingler, and this is what I really struggled with when it comes to this catcher position. You had a guy like Shea Langoliers who's had an incredible year with the A's as their catcher, and the numbers in between him and Dingler are so close, I would say, all around the board. Same amount of games as well. So I really ended up having to go down to what their defense looks like. And Dingler's been one of the best defensive catchers in all of baseball. So that's why I give him the nod and give him the advantage at catcher in the American League. My first baseman is from the New York Yankees. It's Ben Rice. He's had an incredible year, still batting over 300, 17 home runs, 44 RBIs, over a 1.0 OPS still. The only thing, it was a tough one because there's so many good first basemen in the American League that it's just like, who do you put in? And Ben Rice, I think, when I looked at everybody, Ben Rice stood out over the crowd. So I give him the nod for another All-Star appearance for Ben Rice. Second base, it's the rookie from the Cleveland Guardians, Travis Pizzana. And when I was looking at who could be a second baseman in the American League, I will say they do kind of struggle in that department compared to like a catcher and the first base. They don't really have that many good all-star caliber second basemen this year. And Pizzana, in only 32 games, when he's been able to do 813 OPS, 3 home runs, 15 RBIs, 9 doubles, 284 average. Obviously the numbers aren't like gonna blow your socks off. But again, it's pretty good for a rookie, and I would say he's been the best numbers out of any second baseman in the American League, so he gets the nod there. At third base is from the Tampa Bay Rays. Junior Caminero is my starting third baseman for the second straight year in the American League. 278 average, 879 OPS, 14 home runs, 30 RBIs. He's honestly surprised me. I did not think he would carry over this good of a season compared to what he did back in 2025 when they were playing at George Steinbrenner Field. He's continued to have that same sort of success at the Trop this year, and it really hasn't affected his game that much. Defense isn't the best, but what he's been able to do for the Rays, he's been one of their drivers and why they have one of the best records in the American League. Next, as shortstop, Bobby Witt Jr. returns to the starting shortstop position. Last year it was Jacob Wilson, the rookie for the A's, but there's only really one guy you can look at as shortstop in the American League as the shortstop, and it's Bobby Witt Jr. Another great season for him: 19 stolen bases, 16 doubles, 9 home runs, 26 RBIs, 822 OPS. He's really been the reason why Kansas City even still is afloat in the wild card standings. He's having an incredible season, so he gets the nod at shortstop. Now to the outfield. It won't be left, center, or right. It will just be three outfielders. The first one is Aaron Judge. He's had what I would call, for his standards, a down year, but his down year is still a great year. 248 average, 908 OPS, 17 home runs, and 38 RBIs with 10 doubles. But it is something to watch with Judge because he is dealing with a shoulder injury. He's going in for imaging. If it doesn't look good, he might have to go on the IL. That would be a huge blow for the New York Yankees. They already have Giancarlo Stanton down. If you lose Aaron Judge, that's just really, really big for the Yankees to lose both of I would say, their two best power hitters. You still have Cody Bellinger, who's having a great season. If the Yankees lose Judge and Stanton, it might get ugly real quick in New York. Could be a repeat of the 2023 Yankees, who lost some of their best players and went downhill from there and missed the playoffs. So hopefully Judge will be fine, but the Yankees are definitely crossing their fingers for the best. But he is my starting center fielder in the American League. You also have Mike Trout, and what a season he's having. 897 OPS, 14 home runs, 31 RBIs. He is another starting outfielder in the American League from the Angels. And then lastly, from the Minnesota Twins, is Byron Buxton. And again, he's having a really good year. 17 home runs, 27 RBIs, 10 doubles, 852 OPS. So those are my three starting outfielders. And the guy who I think right now would be in the American League MVP, he's had an incredible season, is Yordan Alvarez. He's my starting designated hitter. 1 OPS, 21 home runs, 43 RBIs, 12 doubles. An incredible season for Yordan. He's a big reason why Houston's in the position they're in, where they're still playing a lot better baseball recently, and now they're pushing for a last wild card spot as they get a little more healthier. But that's the American League starting lineup. Their starting pitcher this year, I think the answer is pretty clear in the American League. I think it should be Cam Schlittler from the New York Yankees. He's had an incredible season. He's continued his success from last season. His biggest start last year was in Game 3 of the Wild Card Series against the Red Sox. And again, he's carried that over to this year. A 1.89 ERA, 84 strikeouts in his 76 innings pitched, right? Under a 1 whip. He's had an incredible season. Some would say he might be the front runner right now for the American League Cy Young Award. He's the only qualified starter with an ERA under 2. He's had an incredible season for the Yankees. He's become their ace. He's transcended into their ace. In between him, Garrett Cole, Max Fried, the Yankees have a rotation built for October. But like I said again, if they lose their offense, it's going to be really hard for them to make a run in October. Now let's go to the rest of the pitching staff in the American League. There's going to be about 6 starting pitchers, and then the rest will be relievers. So 6 more starting pitchers, and then the rest are relievers. So first we go with Parker Messick from the Cleveland Guardians. Like I said a little earlier, he's had an incredible season. He's one of the front runners for Rookie of the Year in the American League. 2.21 ERA, 6-1 record, 69 innings pitched, 74 strikeouts. He's been a really good lefty for Cleveland. He shut down the Phillies a couple weeks ago. He shut down almost every team he's faced on the mound. He's had a great year for Cleveland. He's been another one of their pitching prospects who have actually really panned out well for them. Next is Davis Martin from the Chicago White Sox. He's had a really, really good year, an under-the-radar year, a year I don't think most people saw coming necessarily from an outside perspective, but he's been able to take his game to another level. 2.61 ERA, 8-2 record. He's become the ace of a White Sox team who's going and contending for a postseason spot. So I will say Davis Martin's had a great year, and I think he'll be honored as an All-Star this year. Next is Emerson Hancock from the Seattle Mariners, another guy who no one really expected to be in this position, but he's had an incredible season. I would say out of all Seattle's pitchers, you have Brian Wu, who's had a good year. George Kirby's had a good year. I would say out of all of them, Emerson Hancock has had the best year. On the mound, he has a 2.80 ERA, sub-1 whip, 70 strikeouts in 70 innings, so he's had a strikeout per inning, 4-2 record on the mound. So Seattle's winning when he takes the mound. It's just he's had a really under-the-radar season, like a lot of these American League starting pitchers have been, and he is a big reason why Seattle has been able to get back into positioning. And that's something I will say before I go on. We have three more starting pitchers. But I will say no one really could have predicted that these would be the American League all-star pitchers. When you look at, the beginning of the year, you thought, a guy like Tarek Skubal would be there, but he's hurt. Garrett Crochet would be there. He's hurt. You have a guy like, Nate Eovaldi. He's not having, a top year like he has in the past. Hunter Brown, you would think would have been there. He's hurt. Max Fried would probably be there. He's hurt right now. There's so many guys that are injured in the American League pitching wise, and then also guys who just aren't performing at the level that they usually do. But for the other three pitchers in the American League, you have Jose Soriano from the Angels. At first, I wasn't going to put him on, but then I was looking at his stats, and it's like there's no reason why he shouldn't be an all-star. This year, he has a 2.72 ERA, 85 strikeouts, and 76 innings of work, 6-4 record, a 1.21 WHIP. He's holding opponents to under 200 batting average against him. He's had a really, really good year, another under-the-radar year. From Cleveland, again, is Gavin Williams. He's had an incredible season. He's gone on a really hot streak recently. Had a couple bad starts at the beginning of the year, so he does have a 3.20 ERA, but has a lot of wins on the season, 9-3 record, 94 strikeouts, and 81 innings pitched, a 1.08 WHIP. He's had a great season for Cleveland, who, they have a two-headed monster at the top of their rotation in Messick and Williams. And then the last starting pitcher is Nick Martinez from the Tampa Bay Rays. Before yesterday's game against Detroit, he had a sub-2 ERA, but his ERA went up to a 2.29, 5-2 record. He doesn't strike a lot of batters out, but he gets them out. He finds a way to get them out. The numbers are teetering. You don't know how long he's going to be able to keep this up. Opponents are hitting 261 against him, which is really high, but he's had a really good start to the season. He's been a big reason why Tampa Bay is in the position they are in. They have the top record in the American League, so you got to give him his dues. I believe he should be one of the pitchers in the American League as a starter. Now, next to the bullpen guys, we have about 7 bullpen guys that I've selected who should be all-stars in the American League. First, from the Seattle Mariners, is Jose A. Ferrer. He got traded from Washington to Seattle this past offseason. He's become Seattle's best reliever this season in 30 games, this 1.63 ERA, has 3 saves, but he's getting outs. He's been a middle guy, a setup guy for Andres Munoz, who's had a down year, but again, he's still pretty, he's getting saves. Ferrera's had a really good year out of the back end of Seattle's bullpen, so I give him the nod as an all-star. Next, from the Texas Rangers, this is what I kind of struggled with, but I'm giving it to Jacob Latz. 21 games, a 2.35 ERA in 23 innings, 8 saves, and a .65 WHIP. It was either going to be him or it was going to be Jacob Junis. Both of them are having really good years. I went with the lefty Latz as Texas's relieving all-star. From the Boston Red Sox are next, and it's Aroldis Chapman. What a season he's having. A 0.48 ERA. He's only pitched in 18 innings. He has 12 saves in those 18 innings. In those 19 games he's played and pitched in. And he's just been really, really good again for the Boston Red Sox. Last year he was reliever of the year. He's following it up again this year. He might not get the amount of saves he did last year because Boston hasn't won as many games. But if Boston continues to trend downward, he could be someone who could be moved at the deadline to a really, really good team. But for now, he is an all-star for the Boston Red Sox. Next is the MLB saves leader in Cade Smith. In 27 games, has 20 saves, a 2.60 ERA. He's stepped into the role that was left vacant by Emmanuel Clase after he got suspended last year, and he's just picked up where Clase left off. He's had an incredible season this year, and he deserves to be an all-star for the Cleveland Guardians. Next up is Louis Varland from the Toronto Blue Jays. He should have been the American League relief pitcher of the month last month, did not allow a run, has a .29 ERA, which is extremely low. He's become their closer, has 8 saves this season in 31 innings. So he's just been pitching. He's continued what he's done from last postseason. He's had a really, really strong season out of the bullpen for the Toronto Blue Jays. So I give him the nod as a representative for Toronto. Next is for Baltimore is Rico Garcia. He has had a really good season as well. A .68 ERA in 26 innings. Ryan Helsley, their closer, is currently hurt. So is Felix Bautista. So Rico Garcia has stepped into that closer's role. 4 saves for Garcia in 28 games in 26 innings pitched. So he's had a really, really good start to his season. A guy who no one would have saw being an all-star, but he's really stepped up this year for Baltimore. And now lastly is Brian Baker from the Tampa Bay Rays. He's had a really good season as well. 2.13 ERA in 27 games, 16 saves. He has the second most saves in the American League, and he's been a really big anchor. They lost Pete Fairbanks this past offseason, so he's been a really big anchor in the back end of Tampa Bay's bullpen. Next are the honorable mentions in the American League. There's a lot of people who I thought could be all-stars in the AL, but I just couldn't put them on. There was no space for them. For the pitchers-wise, this is my list personally. There's a lot of guys who could have been on here, like a Dylan Cease, who wasn't on here, Joe Ryan, like I talked about with Max Fried, Will Warren, Brian Wu, Michael Waka, Cannelli Early, and Peyton Tolley up in Boston have had great years. Drew Rasmussen in Tampa Bay and Shane McClanahan, they've also been really, really good. Trey Savage has been well. Casey Mize has pitched well. So there's a lot of guys that I didn't put on who could have been all-stars. That's the really tough part about doing this. And it continues into the reserves as well. So now we'll go to that. The American League reserves. At catcher is Shea Langoliers. Like I talked about, he's had a great year, but I just gave Dingler the edge. More RBIs and better defense. Nick Kurtz has had an incredible year for the Oakland Athletics. He gets a nod at first base. He picked up where he left off last year as Rookie of the Year. Now this year he has continued to have a really good season. 946 OPS, 11 home runs, and 42 RBIs, 12 doubles. He's also stealing bases. When I was getting the stats for this video, I wouldn't expect Nick Kurtz to have some of the most stolen bases out of anybody, but he has been stealing bases at a pretty nice clip. So Nick Kurtz gets a nod as an all-star. The rookie from the Chicago White Sox, Munetaka Murakami, gets an all-star nod. We'll see if he'll be healthy enough to play the all-star game, but 20 home runs, 41 RBIs, 938 OPS is nothing to overlook. He's had an incredible year. Big reason why Chicago has had the success they've had. And then the fourth first baseman on the American League All-Star team is from the Boston Red Sox. Wilson Contreras has had an incredible season. 11 home runs, 33 RBIs, 902 OPS. Acquired from St. Louis in the offseason. Contreras is a big reason why Boston even has the record they do, even though they are down in the dumps. He's a big reason why they have as many wins as they do. He's had a great year at first base for the Red Sox in their lineup. Next, again, second base was a little hard to decide, so I went with Ezekiel Duran from the Texas Rangers. He could be more of a utility guy, but I'm putting him at second base right now. He's been another guy who's had a surprising start to his season, around an 800 OPS, around a 290 average, 4 home runs, 32 RBIs, 13 doubles. He's had a really strong year for Texas, and again, one of those other guys who's been a big reason why they found a lot of success this season. Next is a third baseman from the Chicago White Sox, is Miguel Vargas. No one really expected him to be this good this season. 15 home runs, 41 RBIs, 870 OPS. He was a guy who I could have easily put him over Caminero to be the all-star starter at third base. He's had an incredible season. Him, Montgomery, and Murakami are a big reason why the White Sox have been in the position they are in, and he deserves the all-star nod for it. Next is the rookie from the Detroit Tigers, is the shortstop Kevin McGonigal. He has had a really good season. He'll come back to Philadelphia. He's from the Delco area, and he'll get the nod as an all-star rookie. 288 average, 802 OPS. He's been probably the second best shortstop in the American League outside of Bobby Witt Jr., so he gets the nod as an all-star. Next, from the Detroit Tigers, the outfielder Riley Green. I was personally debating if he should be starting in the outfield over Aaron Judge. He's had that good of a season. 311 average, 864 OPS. The home run numbers aren't as big as they usually were for Riley Green. 30 home run hitter usually. Only has 6 right now, but he has 16 doubles this season. So he's getting on base. He's hitting balls in the gap. He is having a pretty nice season slugging. Just hasn't hit those home runs, but he's having a really good year for Detroit. He is one of the outfield reserves. So is Cody Bellinger. I was shocked again when I was doing research for this video. He leads the American League in B-WAR. That's how good of a season he has had for the New York Yankees. 8 home runs, 40 RBIs, 843 OPS, 272, average this season for Cody Bellinger. He's had a really good season, and he will be an all-star reserve. And then the last outfield reserve for Seattle, and from the Mariners, it is Randy Arozarena. Like I talked about a little earlier, he's had an incredible season, a 280 average, 16 home runs, 26 RBIs, 801 OPS. He leads the Mariners in B-WAR. He's had an incredible season for Seattle, and he's continuing it this year, and he will be an all-star. And the last all-star spot in the American League goes to the designated hitter, and it will be Yandy Diaz from the Tampa Bay Rays. He has had a really good year. I talked about it before. He is the most underrated player in baseball, in my opinion. And he continues to show why I said that. He's had a great season, a 313 average, 11 home runs, 39 RBIs, a 916 OPS. Yandy Diaz gets another All-Star nod for the American League. Next are the guys that, couldn't put them in. A lot of good names that just couldn't get in. You got Julio Rodriguez, Jose Ramirez. The first base position was really tough. You have a guy like Christian Walker who's had a great year, couldn't put him in. There was a space. Jonathan Aranda's had a great year for the Rays. Colson Montgomery, like I talked about. Josh Jung has had a great year for Texas. Ernie Clement, his average is really up there again for Toronto. Abreu and Rafaela have had solid seasons for Boston, but just none of them have found the space to get them in. But those are the American League All-Stars. Now to the National League. All right, here is the National League starting lineup for the All-Star game. Catcher is from the Braves. It's Drake Baldwin. Even though he's hurt right now, he has a 932 OPS on the season, 13 home runs, 38 RBIs. He has had a really productive season for the Atlanta Braves, and he gets the nod at catcher. Another Brave at first base, it's Matt Olson. He's had an incredible season. I've talked about him a lot. I think he's in the MVP conversation. 17 home runs, 46 RBIs, 910 OPS, 273 average. He's Atlanta's Iron Man. He keeps showing up whenever the Braves need him to, and he's going to get the All-Star nod this season. From the Pittsburgh Pirates, starting at second base, is Brandon Lau. He's had a great season as a Pirate. His first season could be his only season as a Pirate, free agent after the season. 15 home runs, 40 RBIs. His OPS is high at 865. So he's had a really good season for Pittsburgh, been one of their best hitters, and he gets the nod as an All-Star. Next is Max Muncy at third base from the Los Angeles Dodgers. He's had a really good season as well. 250 average, 14 home runs. The RBI number is really low. He always has 22 RBIs. He doesn't have that many opportunities with guys on base, but doesn't really matter because he still hits bombs. 14 of them, like I said. 857 OPS. He's had a really good year. I don't know. People were talking about can he bounce back after last season, had an injury-riddled season, had the big home run in the World Series, and then now having a really good year in 2026, having a great All-Star candidacy. Next, starting at shortstop, this was a really tough one that I was debating in between, Ellie De La Cruz, Otto Lopez, but the guy I ended up going with was C.J. Abrams from the Washington Nationals as the starting shortstop in the National League. In a year that you have a Trey Turner having a down season, you have a guy like Dansby Swanson having a down season, you have a guy like Francisco Lindor who's been hurt, guys step up. And the guy who stepped up is the National shortstop in Abrams. He's had a really good year, 288 average, 12 home runs, 47 RBIs, 903 OPS, 13 doubles. He's had a really good season, one of the anchors for a Nationals offense who has been one of the best in baseball. They've scored a lot of runs at any point during the game, so I give C.J. Abrams the nod as an All-Star. Next for the outfield, the first outfielder is from the New York Mets. It's Juan Soto. Last year, he didn't get in the All-Star game, but this year, he's leaving no doubt. He's had injuries this season, but even through those, 13 home runs, 29 RBIs, and 943 OPS, which leads all National League outfielders, 293 average. He's Juan Soto. He's having a great season. There's not much more I could really say about the Mets outfielder. Next is a guy who should have been an All-Star last year, but this year he's leaving no doubt. Again, as a starter in my book is Andy Pages from the Los Angeles Dodgers. What a season he's having. He leads MLB in RBIs with 51, 877 OPS, 15 doubles, 13 home runs, 294 average. He's a great defensive center fielder. Made a big catch last year in the World Series to save the game. His defense has continued to be really, really good this season. And he gets the nod as a first-time All-Star starter. Last outfielder from the St. Louis Cardinals is Jordan Walker. He had a really hot start to the season. He's cooled down a little bit, but the average is still very high, 291, 892 OPS, 15 home runs, 44 RBIs, 11 doubles for Jordan Walker. Top prospect at a time. Wasn't really the guy in St. Louis, but this year has transcended into a guy who has been the Cardinals' best hitter on a team that currently is in the playoff picture in a year that no one really expected them to be. And then lastly, at designated hitter, there's only one guy who could be the National League designated hitter, and his name is Kyle Schwarber from the Philadelphia Phillies. A lot of people would say Shohei Ohtani. Schwarber's had a better season. He leads MLB in home runs. He has 23, 949 OPS, which is better than Ohtani. and it's also in Philadelphia. That has to go to something for Schwarber. Has to be at his advantage. Schwarber's had an incredible season as a Philly. He was an All Star last year. He'll get another nod, his third as a Philly, and he'll be an All Star this year for the National League. And the All Star starting pitcher for the National League, there's only one guy to do it, and his name is Christopher Sanchez from the Philadelphia Phillies. 146 ERA, just got a scoreless streak snap, the fifth longest in Major League history of 50 innings, 72 record, 103 strikeouts in 86 innings, has thrown a complete game already. He's done everything you can ask for a starting pitcher. He's been the best starting pitcher in all of baseball. I give him the nod as the All-Star starter. But it doesn't go without competition to be the best. And you have Jacob Misiorowski from Milwaukee, who has been incredible this season as one of the best starting pitchers in baseball as well. He's step for step with Sanchez. No matter what Sanchez does, Misiorowski's right there with him. 6-2 record, 1.65 ERA at 71 innings, 108 strikeouts, a WHIP at .79. Opponents are hitting 150 against Misiorowski this season. He's having an incredible season as well. He gets his second All-Star nod. This should be his first. That's a debate for another day. But he gets his second All-Star nod. Next, from the Pittsburgh Pirates, is Paul Skeens. He gets his third All-Star nod. And this is one based off of just who Paul Skeens is. His numbers aren't as good as they usually are. 3.09 ERA. He's had a couple blow-up starts. Opening day didn't go his way. Had a rough start against the Phillies. Had not his best start against the Astros last night either. But again, he is one of the better pitchers in baseball. Still a sub-1 WHIP, even though he's had his bad starts. 6-5 record, and Pittsburgh is playing really good baseball. They're in the wild card spot right now, so you got to give a nod to a guy who's a big part of that. Give the nod to Paul Skeens, who will get his third All-Star appearance. Next, from the Atlanta Braves, is Chris Sale. Like I talked about earlier, he's had a great season, back to his Cy Young numbers, won it in 2024. Might not win it this year, but he's putting up a damn good case for it. 2.01 ERA, 8-3 record, 80 strikeouts, .94 WHIP. Sub 200 average against. He's had a really good year for Atlanta. One of the best left-handers in all of baseball. Next is a guy who has really taken the league by storm. Is Chase Burns from the Cincinnati Reds. 2.05 ERA, 7-1 record, 81 strikeouts in 70 innings. He's faced some of the best lineups in all of baseball, and he hasn't been afraid. He's dominated all of them. He's had a really good year. He's become the Reds' ace so far this season, and the Reds, again, are a team that are contending for a wild card spot. He's a big part of what they've been able to do this season. Next is Shohei Ohtani. He is a two-way player, so I'm going to talk about it more when I talk about his designated hitter, because he will be backup designated hitter for the National League, but I'll talk about it more then. But you got to give him the nod as a pitcher. He's had a great season, so he's an all-star again for the Dodgers. Next is Zach Wheeler from the Philadelphia Phillies. He's had a really good season. It starts back from his surgery that, for some people could be career-ending, especially at his age. He's up there in age, but 4.1 record, 2.27 ERA, 40 strikeouts in 43 innings, a sub-1 WHIP as well. He's had a really good season for the Phillies. Former one of the best 1-2 punches in all baseball in between him and Christopher Sanchez. But a guy who's had a really good season who I had to put on the list is Kyle Harrison from the Milwaukee Brewers. What a year he's having, a 7-1 record, 1.57 ERA, 73 strikeouts, and 57 innings of work, a 1.03 WHIP. The Red Sox are really regretting trading him away, and the Giants should be too. He's had an incredible season in Milwaukee. He's become one of the best pitchers, one of the best left-handers in baseball. A season that was flying under the radar, but now a lot of people know about it. What a great season for Kyle Harrison. He gets his first All-Star nod. Now to the relievers. First from the Atlanta Braves is Robert Suarez. Came over from the Padres in the offseason. A sub-1 ERA, 27 appearances, 27 innings pitched as well, sub-1 WHIP as well. He's had a really good season for Atlanta as their setup man, and their closer has been just as good from the Atlanta Braves as well as Rafael Iglesias. A .96 ERA, a sub-1 WHIP as well, 18 appearances, 11 saves. He's continued to be a really good piece at the back end of Atlanta's bullpen. He gets another All-Star nod. Next, from the San Diego Padres, is Mason Miller. There was no doubt that he would be in this game. He's had an incredible season. A .72 ERA. Start of the year where he didn't give up a run for the longest. 24 games pitched, 25 innings, 17 saves, which leads the a National League. He's had a great season. He's been San Diego's best reliever. He gets the nod to be an all-star again. Next, from the Phillies, maybe he'll get his entrance in Citizens Bank Park. It's Johan Duran in his home ballpark. He'll be an all-star for the first time as a Philadelphia Philly. He has had a great season. He had a little stint that he was hurt, but 1.37 ERA over 20 games, 14 saves. He's been Phillies closer, one of the best closers the Phillies have had, arguably since Jonathan Papelbon over a decade ago. He has had a great season for the Phillies. He gets the nod as an all-star. Next, from the Milwaukee Brewers, this is the one that's a little different for a lot of reasons. It's Aaron Ashby. In 27 games, he does have a 2.17 ERA, but he's 9-0. He has the most wins out of any National League pitcher. He leaves baseball in wins, 52 strikeouts in his 37 innings of work. He's been a big piece of Milwaukee's bullpen, so he does get the nod as an all-star this year. Next, for the Los Angeles Dodgers, is Tanner Scott. He was a guy who came over as a free agent after the 2024 season, had a really rough season last year, missed most of the postseason because of surgery, came back this season, was expected to be more of a middle guy or a short, or middle guy or a setup guy. Edwin Diaz gets hurt. He kind of goes to the closer role. He's definitely performed as a closer. A 2.10 ERA, 6 saves in 25 innings, pitched 27 games. Next, and the last reliever is from the Chicago Cubs, and this is one struggled with putting a guy on the Cubs on the roster. Couldn't find where to put it. But I think the best option was Daniel Palencia as a reliever. He's had a really good season. He's only pitched in 15 games, but he has a 1.98 ERA, 3 saves. But again, because he hasn't pitched that much, and the Cubs haven't really been in winning positions when he's been pitching. But he's had a really good season. He's had a dominant season, 1.24 whip, which is pretty good for a reliever. So I give him the nod as a reliever for the National League All-Star team. Some guys who I wanted to put on but couldn't. Pitcher was Yamamoto's had a great season. And Warner Rodriguez is what I definitely juggled with. He's had an incredible season for the Arizona Diamondbacks, as well as Taylor Clark out of the Diamondbacks bullpen. Couldn't put either of them in because there was no space. Justin Robleski has been a surprise for the Dodgers as one of their best starters. Could go a long time, but he gets, he just gets left off barely. Bryce Elder's had a great year for the Atlanta Braves, but he barely gets left off. Same case with Max Meyer. He's kind of bloomed into his own star, but he can't, no space. There's guys like Antonio Senzatella from the Rockies, Braxton Ashcraft, Michael McCreevy, a lot of guys who've had really good seasons, just cannot put them on. There's no space for them. But those are the pitchers. And now finally, to wrap all this up, the reserves from the National League. We start off, you have Hunter Goodman, the catcher from the Colorado Rockies. Really good season, 15 home runs, 27 RBIs, 816 OPS, 11 doubles. Another great season from him. He will be the Rockies representative in the All-Star game. Another catcher in the National League, and this is one that came down. He was one of the last players I put on. It was a really tough choice. I went with Liam Hicks from the Miami Marlins. 46 RBIs on the season, 827 OPS, 268 average, 12 home runs. A great season for Liam Hicks. He's become the catcher every day for Miami. A lot of people thought it was going to be Augustin Ramirez, who had a really good season last year, but Hicks was just the better hitter all season long. He gets the nod as his first All-Star appearance. Next, from the Philadelphia Phillies, it's the showman, MV3, Bryce Harper, is back in the All-Star game and for the first time since 2024. Second time as a Philly playing in the game. He's had a really good season, a 14 home run season, 36 RBIs, with the Phillies' second best hitter behind Schwarber, 258 average, 873 OPS. He deserves another All-Star nod. He gets it as the backup first baseman. Next, another guy from the Miami Marlins, Xavier Edwards. It's hard to deny how good he's been this season, a 311 average, 864 OPS. He's arguably been, better than Brandon Lau. I thought it was really close between them two by what with Lau, but Edwards makes the roster. Another All-Star appearance for him. Next, third base, Nolan Arenado. Not a lot of people thought he would be in this position. A lot of people thought his best days were behind him, myself included, but Nolan Arenado has taken the league by storm since May. Had a great May into June. Now an 801 OPS, 8 home runs, 30 RBIs, 12 doubles. Been a great everyday player for the Arizona Diamondbacks, who are now contending for a top wild card spot. Talked about the tough choice at shortstop earlier when I was talking about C.J. Abrams, but I went with him. So Ellie De La Cruz is the reserve. He just went on the IL, so we'll see if he'll be back for the All-Star game. But again, he had a really, really good start to his season. 280 average, 12 home runs, 37 RBIs, 13 solo bases, 855 OPS. Almost identical stats to CJ Abrams, but a great season nevertheless from Ellie De La Cruz. He gets another All-Star nod. Next, from the Washington Nationals, is James Wood. He gets another All-Star nod as well. 264 average, 16 home runs, 39 RBIs, 15 doubles, and 928 OPS. It was another tough decision whether he deserves to be in the starting lineup or not. I could easily put him in over any of those guys, but it's just so close to the National League where James Wood will end up being a reserve. Same is the case for Corbin Carroll from the Arizona Diamondbacks. He's had a really good year as well. Just couldn't fit him in the starting lineup. You already know how good Corbin Carroll is, so I don't really need to go in depth about him, but he is an all-star reserve. And lastly is Michael Harris, who's had a really good year from the Atlanta Braves. You got to give him the nod, over 300 average, 13 home runs, 37 RBIs, 849 OPS, so you got to give him his credit where credit's due. He's had a really good year. He gets an all-star nod. Talked about Shohei earlier. He's the backup DH. Over 300 average, 10 home runs, 33 RBIs, 941 OPS, 14 doubles. You already know how good of a hitter he is. Pitching, he might just be better this year. .74 ERA, 61 innings, 67 strikeouts, .79 whip, 144 average against. It's only in 10 starts, so we could calm down about Cy Young talk, but he has been very, very good this season for the Dodgers. And then lastly, the last player I'm putting in this roster is Casey Smith from the San Francisco Giants. He's had a great season, a season that no one really expected him to have. 13 home runs. He just hit a home run while I'm recording this. 12 doubles. A great season all around for Casey Smith. He deserves to be an all-star. Play all around the field, put him at first base, left field, middle infield, doesn't really matter. He's had a great season. He gets the nod as an all-star. And then again, the tough one with the guys who I left off. First off is Brandon Marsh. That would hurt me, obviously, as a Phillies fan. He's had a great season, leads MLB in average, has had a breakout season for the Phillies, but there's just so many good outfielders in the National League. Another guys like a Ronald Acuna Jr. couldn't put him on. J.J. Bleday, Mickey Moniak, Brian Reynolds, Ryan O'Hearn, Ian Happ, PCA, Spencer Hortwitz has had a great year, just no space. O'Neal Cruz, Spencer Steer, Luis Arias. Yeah, Freddie Freeman's had a great year. Bryce Tereg's had a great year. Otto Lopez, like I talked about. Sal Stewart's had a great year for Cincinnati. But again, just could not beat out the guys who I put on the roster. So those are my all-star rosters. And before we wrap this up, I do want to go over who has the most representatives out of this roster. Braves have 6 guys. Phillies have 5 guys. Dodgers, Yankees, Guardians, and Rays all have 4 representatives. The White Sox, Tigers, Mariners, Brewers all have 3. Marlins, Nationals, Pirates, Reds, D-backs, Angels, Rangers, Athletics, and Red Sox all have 2. And then the Astros, Royals, Blue Jays, Twins, Orioles, Rockies, Giants, Padres, Cubs, Cardinals, and the Mets all have 1 representative in this all-star roster. But that will wrap up this very long episode of Around the Bases. We'll be back on Monday to talk about all of the weekend activities. So make sure to tune in for that. Tomorrow, series recap, Phillies, Padres, and series preview for the White Sox series, as well as some other stuff going around with the Phillies. And then on Saturday, the introduction of Substack Saturdays, talk about the CBA, talk about the salary cap, talk about potential lockout. But that'll wrap it up. I'm Jaden Harper. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.